Barr, who in late August 1944 asked Roosevelt to authorize the sharing of U.S. atomic secrets with the world scientific community. He believed science belonged to the world. At about the same time during the summer of 1944, uranium-235 was beginning to be produced in the quantities required for a weapon. Success seemed in sight. The problem of how to enclose the great God K in a bomb casing was being dealt with. If, despite the qualms of some of the scientists, work was to go forward, the time had come to choose the man to train and lead the men who would drop the bomb. Activation. September 1, 1944 to June 27, 1945. 1. The commanding general of the 2nd Air Force, Enola Gay, looked up as Colonel John Lansdale of U.S. Army Intelligence led Paul Tibbets into his office. He glanced inquiringly at the intelligence officer. Lansdale nodded. General Ent then introduced the two men seated beside his desk. One was U.S. Navy Captain William Deke Parsons, whom he described as an explosives expert, but who was, in fact, one of the most influential men in the Manhattan Project. The other was a civilian, Professor Norman Ramsey, a 29-year-old Harvard physicist. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Tibbets was struck by Ramsey's comparative youth. He had always associated scientists with gray hair and stooped shoulders. To Tibbets, the two men looked fit enough to fly combat, even if Parsons's baldness made him appear older than his 44 years. And it seemed strange that this naval captain should be involved in what appeared to be an Army-Air Force meeting. "Have you ever heard of atomic energy?" Ramsey had the firm, incisive voice of a natural tutor. "Yes," said Tibbets. "How?" "I majored in physics, so I know the atomic scale." There was an expectant pause. "What do you know of the present situation in the field?" asked Parsons. Tibbets looked at General Ent. There was no encouragement there. A few days earlier, when Ent first became aware of the Manhattan Project, he himself had been warned he would be court-martialed if any leak of information were traced to him. Tibbets looked to Lansdale, who gave a barely perceptible nod. As confidently as he could, Tibbets began to speak. He understood there had been some experimenting by the Germans to try to make heavy water so that they could split the atom. Good. Ramsey's gentle praise was more suited to the campus than the bleak office of a fighting general. He paused, weighing his words, a mannerism Tibbets would come to recognize. Ramsey continued, "The United States has now split an atom. We are making a bomb based on that. The bomb will be so powerful that it will explode with a force of 20,000 tons of conventional high explosive." General Ent then told Tibbets he had been chosen to drop that bomb. It was September 1, 1944. The place was U.S. Army 2nd Air Force Headquarters, Colorado Springs. Only moments before this conversation, Lansdale had led Tibbets into the cloakroom adjoining General Ent's office. There Lansdale had asked Tibbets a highly personal question. Tibbets had given no visible reaction. Nevertheless, he was stunned. How did this stranger know of that private event of 10, or was it 12, years ago, an experience of such a passing nature that he himself could not now exactly remember its date? Why had Lansdale been probing something that had happened all those years back? Tibbets recognized that this assault upon his privacy, his sense of self-respect, was calculated. But how should he cope with it? He knew that Lansdale's question had nothing directly to do with military intelligence. Therefore, he would be perfectly justified in not answering. Then he could walk out, unchallenged, through one of the two doors in the cloakroom. That door would return him to the conventional military world, where nobody would dare ask such an intimate question of a much-decorated war hero. Tibbets decided to tell the truth. "Yes, I was once arrested by the police in North Miami Beach." "What for?" "The chief of police at Surfside caught me in the back of an automobile with a girl," confessed Tibbets. The rest took little telling. His arrest, a spell in the cells, the intervention of a judge who was a family friend, the indiscretion hushed up. By admitting the truth about the backseat dalliance with a girl whose name he now had difficulty recalling, Paul Tibbets had assured himself of a place in history. Within a year, his name would become forever linked with the destruction of Hiroshima, a Japanese city.